Good? Okay. All right, we'll call the meeting to order. Stand for the singing of O Canada. O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love, in all our songs command, with glowing hearts we see, we rise, love true, Lord, strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Okay, record of attendance, and everyone's here, okay? Any conflicts of interest, anyone? And you can state so when the item comes up on the agenda. And the approval of agenda. So I have a couple of additions. I have Ocean Breeze Estates 3, the solid waste bylaw, 9A. 9AA. And 11B, council recommendations from the Planning Advisory Committee. Anything else anybody wants to add? Delete? Good to go? Okay. Approval of the agenda with those additions, please. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Questions been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. I'm looking for approval of minutes. Town Council, April 12, 2018. Thank you. Discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. And Committee of the Whole, April 25th, 2018. Please. Moved. Seconded. Questions been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Thank you, folks. Okay, so we have a presentation. Welcome, everybody. Full house. So we are looking for Mr. George. Welcome, Jason. So
I've also asked Georgine to sit with me as well.
sure. Okay. Okay, so we'll just tell you how this works first, just so everybody understands. I think most people know, because a lot of people watch on TV. We're not televised because we had to push it a week because of the UNSM. So you have 10 minutes to present, and of course we don't make any decisions here. So it's a presentation, and then we just move on to the rest of our meeting. So the other piece is the microphone. So whichever other Mr. George or George speaks into the microphone, right?
Jason or George.
Yeah, Jason or George. Okay, so whichever one of you is speaking, maybe just get the microphone as close as you can, because it's recorded, and then we want the folks down back to hear. You can all hear me, right? Okay, and then if you can't hear them, just wave at me and do this, and I'll just make sure that they speak right into the microphone. So the floor is yours, gentlemen.
Good evening, everybody. Your Honorable Pamu, Jeff Gushu, and the council, thank you for your time for me to speak in behalf of the fire department and the fire service. Question that came up, you guys made a decision to remove our dispatch service and also outsource our dispatch service. I have 4 or 5 questions I'd just like to ask the council to consider or look into, and I'd like an answer at your convenience.
So you can leave email or whatever, however you want to.
Okay. Why wasn't, question 1, why wasn't the other EI, meaning Municipality of Yarmouth, Municipality of Argyle, Barrington, all down the shore, up as far as Clare, and outside departments weren't consulted before your decision was made, if it was a financial model that was broken? Question 2, as a taxpayer, if any of you guys have ever called 911, they have a spreadsheet. They have asked you 10 questions in regards to an emergency service. And what's your emergency? That time elapsed anywhere from 3 to 7 minutes, depending on how distraught the person is. All I want to know is if you guys are outsourcing this, you know, we would like to have a more adequate time to respond because of new construction designs and materials. It only takes 9 to 17 minutes for a normal, more modern house to go up in flames. Not like a wood structure house. You had anywhere from 15 to 25 minutes, depending on where it started. The other question that come up, and this happened last week, was what's it going to take to keep this viable service, our safety net, our safety line, our communication person for all our departments in the 24 that it serves? And those are just the vital questions that I have to ask. I'm going to pass the mic over to George.
Good evening, everyone. A few of the issues that have come up, I've been to a few meetings here in the last couple of weeks, you can imagine. One of the issues that has come up, and I would like to ask the council here, is the structure of mutual aid. Now, I'm sure that you have heard, because Councillor Dennis was at the meeting in Tuscott, that all the outside rural departments, we supply mutual aid to the town of Yarmouth. There's not a fire department anywhere in Yarmouth County that can fight a structure fire on its own. And when I sat down and started looking at the figures, that if mutual aid billed the town of Yarmouth every single time that we came in to help you guys on a fire, that the town of Yarmouth would have to pay approximately $150,000 a year in mutual aid. I want to ask this council right here, right now, is our service of no value to you? Is that not contributing towards this dispatch or whatever in a different way? We may not be trading cash back and forth, but we do provide a service. I'm looking at it that the council could have gone to the fire departments. I'm sure we would have been able to think about double our fee that we're charging. That would have brought $60,000 from the dispatchers. The municipality of Yarmouth supplies another $30,000. And so that's 90. That still leaves 170. Well, if we're providing $150,000 worth of mutual aid to Yarmouth, I believe Yarmouth is only paying $20,000 for an extremely vital service. Like Jason had said, minutes count here, and I mean minutes. And we just will not get that service from any outside source. I mean, they do not have the knowledge. A lot of the roads here are named different names. I'm sure that all the councillors know where Braemar Lodge was, and people get up there, and if they're in a motor vehicle accident and say, I'm on the Braemar Road, you know, no outside source is going to be able to find it. They're not going to know where it is. These dispatchers know where that is. They know it's a Saunders Road. You guys, councillors, know that up here by the hospital, they call it the Tin Pot Road. Same issue there. That's Lakeside Road. No outside source is going to know it. And someday, somewhere, it's going to cost somebody a life. I'll recall a call last summer that we got down to Melbourne for a water rescue for a boat. No outside source is going to know. The municipality of Argyle, EMO, has a boat and motor and stuff, and was supplied for water rescue to all the departments. The town of Yarmouth no longer has theirs. The dispatchers know that it is parked in Lake Vaughan Fire Hall, and that if they need a boat anywhere, it's called. These are just examples of just knowledge that these guys have, and we just cannot lose this dispatch service. You cannot be replaced from an outside source. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I thought this was going to take more than 10 minutes, but like I said, it has not. I want to take this time to thank you guys for at least hearing us, and I will make sure that you guys have my email. The only one last thing I got to ask is that we at the Yarmouth end of it, we have paid guys, we have volunteers. Okay, we have an association. I know that there's been emails that went out to separate different departments, and we never received those. And I would like to be able to be included on that list, please.
Yeah.
Okay.
We didn't realize that, because we did try to send it out to everybody. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming in.
I'll
both of
just
you.
I'll just have one more thing there in closing, and we have done a lot of meetings and stuff, and the outside departments, we've had some choices too that we could make, as well as the town council could make their own choices. And we had the choice as mutual aid that we can continue business as usual and keep coming in and assist at no charge like we do. And we also had the choice that we could come in and assist the town of Yarmouth and build the town of Yarmouth if we wanted. Or we had the choice that we could just stop coming in and helping the town of Yarmouth altogether. And everybody decided in the end that the only ones that was going to lose is the general public and the safety of the Yarmouth firefighters and the safety of the public. So our choice was no changes. So you will still continue to get help.
Thank you. Thanks, gentlemen. So, as I explained, we don't make any decisions here, but I want to assure you, and I'm going to speak for council because I know this council, we heard what you said, and I'm pretty sure that each one of these council members is going to go back and review that tape as well to make sure that we hear it again. So thank you again, gentlemen, for coming in, and for the, yeah, and we will respond in writing to those questions. And then we'll send them to you, and then I don't know who else they go to, but you can share them as far and wide as you want to share them. Okay? Good. All right. So we move on to the next part of our meeting. You're all welcome to stay. There's coffee in the corner. Might not be enough coffee, but we can make more. Okay, so the second reading, solid waste resource bylaw. You want what?
5-minute break, just
Yeah.
let me clear out.
Yeah, can do that.
Hug the rear and there. Looking forward to the villa tournament, he said. Oh, yeah? Yeah. I can't get up. Keep popping it up. Hitting down on the ball.
Oh.
Getting annoying. Yeah, I know, it's weird.
And then I'll go back, push you away. Then go back to the next one, get back on the tee, maybe use one fair, then go on.
People go over and enjoy the park. Good? We're good, we can start.
Jim Sharp, drove up business from the store.
Oh my gosh. Second reading of the solid waste resource bylaw. Okay, Jeff, do you want to take that? CAO, we should say, sorry.
It's okay.
Go ahead.
So, Your Worship, this is a second reading of the solid waste bylaw. So it's an update of our bylaw that we've had in place for almost 20 years. It's been updated to mimic, to a large extent, the waste check model bylaw that they worked on. We have included our own collection and separation guide. As you know, the town of Yarmouth does collection a little differently than our surrounding municipalities. We don't do a spring and fall cleanup, but we do monthly collections of special waste at different times. That's all incorporated in the bylaw. The other thing that we changed and we clarified in this version of the bylaw is who actually is responsible for the solid waste when it's placed at the curb. And so the bylaw has it now that when solid waste is placed at the curb, it is the property owners and the property owner's responsibility until it is collected by the hauler and placed in the collection vehicle. And so if solid waste is put at the curb, it isn't properly sorted, it is still the property owners and their responsibility. If it becomes a mess, the bags break, the cans tip over, stuff spills out, that is the property owner's responsibility still. So until our collector, our contracted collector picks it up, it is the property owner's responsibility. So that is the, other than the update, changes in language to reflect the waste check model, that is probably the most significant change in this bylaw from where it was.
Okay.
So,
Did I miss something? Like the biggest, go ahead there,
yeah, so
Councillor Wood, or
Well,
CAO?
let's
first,
let the
and then-
CAO finish.
Yeah.
So the process tonight is you should hear from anybody present who wishes to speak to it, because it is second reading of a bylaw, and once the public has spoken, then a motion to approve second reading would be in order, and then you have your discussion and decide on whether you want to approve second reading or not, or you can refer it back to staff if it still needs work, based on what you might hear from the public.
Okay. All right, anybody in the public want to speak to this? I'll ask 3 times. Anyone want to speak to this one? You might have to come up to the microphone, sorry. Sure.
When we put our garbage out, as a resident of Yarmouth County, or Yarmouth Town, County,
Yeah.
whatever, for the haulers to pick up,
Well, where are you though? Where do you live?
doesn't make
It
any
makes a
difference.
difference.
Okay, I'm gonna say the town of Yarmouth.
Okay,
All right. You put your garbage out 6 o'clock in the morning, because it has to be out before 7, right?
yeah.
Then you go to work. So let's say seagulls get it.
Jody just asked that question. Jody just asked.
What
Well-
happens there?
Yeah, he'll answer that.
So it is your responsibility. So as an example, you can put your garbage out to the curb in animal-proof containers. It doesn't have to be just plastic bags. It can be in plastic containers with the bags inside, and then the hauler will take the bags out of the can. So in my personal case, I have a blue can, a gray can, and of course the green bin. And for just that reason is I had seagulls and other wild animals availing themselves of my shiny things in the blue bag and whatnot. And it got to be a mess one day, and so I went to the cans for just that reason.
Okay. Now, let's say winds are blowing 100 kilometers like they did all winter, and your cans go blowing down the road.
That they're your cans.
Okay, with the garbage.
Garbage is yours, you have to pick it up.
Okay?
Yeah. And
Well-
so, yeah,
Okay,
go
another
ahead,
example, just another question.
let him finish
So,
this one. and
so
then-
in a situation like that, I understand the difficulty, and I'm sure all of council has probably experienced it at
I
one
have.
time or another.
Well, this is what I'm saying,
But
everybody has.
it's somebody's responsibility. It's somebody's responsibility.
Yeah.
And if it's not the homeowners, whose is it? Is it the town's responsibility that the wind is blowing and the garbage blew down the street?
No,
Right?
no.
So you're not going to get a fine from the town if your can blows down the street, right?
No, but let's say the garbage gets blown down the street and the hauler doesn't pick it up out of the ditch,
Right, which
Because
he
it's-
likely won't.
10 feet away from the edge of the road.
Yeah?
Yeah, so that's, yeah, so that's up to you
You know, it
to,
happens to everybody.
it does happen to everybody.
Right.
It does, happens to me all the time, but it's still, I still understand it's my,
Yes,
it's my garbage.
Yeah.
I might not have tied it tight enough,
No,
or-
I'm just saying the bag in general got blown
Oh, the
into
bag
the
in
ditch.
general,
The
yeah.
hauler will not stop
Yeah.
if that bag is 10
Yeah.
feet from
Yeah.
the curb.
No, so, beach rock.
Okay, another example I have, that's fine, that's
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
a fine answer. 8 apartments, 1 driveway. Will the hauler empty 8 bins?
There's a limit on that too, go ahead.
Yes, Your Worship. So municipal solid waste is only available for buildings up to 4 units. Above 4 units,
Yes.
it's up to the owner to arrange for a private contractor to come and
It's
get the
four-
garbage.
four units.
4 units is the
But
max.
it's in one road, 8 apartments.
It's in one what?
1 driveway, Ocean Breeze Estates, 1
Right.
driveway, 4 units.
So Ocean Breeze, each of those buildings is on a separate lot.
Yeah,
And, yeah, it can be a lot of garbage at the
So
curb.
we can put,
you can put your, are you asking, just be bold, just be blunt. Can you put your garbage at the end of the road?
oh yes, I know I can put my garbage.
Oh.
But will the hauler pick up and empty 16 cans?
The hauler is contracted to collect. They know the number of units. They're familiar with the town. Those buildings were there. So they're contracted to do that service. So if the garbage is out at the curb or at the side of the road, the hauler is contracted to collect it. What the hauler won't do is, and this is an ongoing discussion with Ocean Breeze, in their development, right now, their garbage cans and green bins are at the end of their driveways.
They were.
They were.
They have been moved a month
They-
ago.
Yeah,
Okay.
they, yeah.
So we can't go in, we can't
No,
ask.
I never
right.
asked them to. I never asked
Yeah,
them
no.
to. What I'm asking is if we put 16 garbage cans at the end of each driveway down Haley Road, like to next Thursday, will the hauler dump 16 cans?
Yes,
Yes?
yes.
Can I have that in writing, please?
Sorry?
To Andrew?
Can I have it in writing?
You have my
I want it.
word. You
I'm
have my
serious.
word.
I have had to call, what's his name, Russell Adams?
Russell
Allen?
Allen, yeah?
Yep.
Because the hauler would not, I had the green bin on the other side of the culvert. He would not stop.
It was where, sorry?
2 feet. I'll give it 5 feet off of the edge of the road. I am serious. You can call him and ask him.
Okay, so if that happens to you,
And I'm
at a-
not trying to be picky. so
No,
don't
no,
Oh,
get-
but I don't know if you
no,
have
this
a.
is fair.
Yeah, I don't know if you have a cell phone or something like that. If something like that occurs and you want to send a quick picture and an email to Russell, that's a
Yeah,
rule.
he's given me his, because of this situation 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
With the green bins. I'm just curious here. I may have deleted the picture. I
But
told
the-
Andrew I promised to keep my mouth shut. Didn't have.
No, you need to have your questions answered. So were you gonna say something, Cliff, while she's, you look at that and then wave when you're ready, he's just gonna,
Yep.
I wanted to ask her, are you speaking on behalf of Ocean?
can you put your light on?
As much as myself as anything. Actually, I'm the superintendent.
So you're speaking on behalf?
I'm speaking on behalf, but also for myself.
Yeah, yeah,
My own reasons.
So,
go ahead.
So, Your Worship, I looked at this tonight, and I'm not 100% sure that we're doing the right thing here. Really, I'm not. And I don't know what the chair thinks about this, but I think we should be looking at this again. I think there's a case here that we need to look at. And I'm wondering if we aren't passing, I'm wondering if there shouldn't be some tweaking of that bylaw. I don't know, but I don't like the idea that we may have invoked a bylaw to solve some problems in other parts of town where people are less inclined to look after their properties than, say, the people in Ocean View Estates.
Thank you.
Because I haven't seen it.
So,
It-
don't turn your light out, but we've sort of had a little bit of a discussion about it just off the cuff, and the problem with bylaws is you write them for the one that is committing the offense, sort of. It's
I
to
realize that.
it's to protect, right?
I realize that.
And he's, I agree with Councillor Hood, like, it's difficult because you've got a beautiful setup out there, and because other people think it's okay to put, I don't know, giant lobster traps and everything else at the end filled with junk, and their neighbors shouldn't have to look at that, right?
No,
I mean,
they should not.
I know I'm preaching to the converted because you get it,
Yeah,
but
no,
boy,
I
it's
understand
it's really hard. It's
I get
hard.
it. The reason rules are made is for.
Would it
Keep
be
going.
possible to send
I get
this
it.
back for some more consideration to the Planning Advisory Committee?
Yeah. Go ahead, Councillor
Jim.
Jim. That's it. I can't remember.
So, Jeff, I've read the bylaw, but it's been a little while. I need the containers that are placed in front of new apartment buildings. They're no longer going to be allowed, or would they be allowed to set a standard?
Because they weren't ever allowed in the first place. That's the problem,
Yeah,
right?
and I realize that. So I'm not promoting one way or the other, but there are some apartment buildings that have spent a lot of money to design and build to hold 2 containers or more, and we wouldn't, Don would never allow that at 12 Grand Street, by the way. But it's difficult, I think, because there are some locations, some residents in our town that don't have that standard that Mr. Daly has set, from my point of view, and it's, as you said yourself, Your Worship, a mess. And I just wondered what happens, what's in this bylaw in that area?
So this bylaw is no different than the previous bylaw in terms of what it permits around the storage of solid waste. So, when it's collection day, you bring it out to the curb, everybody's got the garbage out in front of the place before 7 o'clock, and that's fine. That's normal, right? The question is, where do you store it on all the other days? And the previous bylaw and this bylaw say that you can't have it in your front yard, right? It can't be in front of the house. So it has to be the backyard, side yard even. So that's no different. So what's happened is, and I explained this to Andrew and to others, Mr. Daly, is that we didn't enforce that provision of the bylaw diligently, and so a number of these front, at the end of your driveway, boxes started popping up. It wasn't on our radar until we went to update the bylaw, and we're going through making the bylaw, the waste check bylaw, consistent with our town bylaw, and this one's stood out because I knew that there were a number of these around the community. So I asked Russell, I said, would you notify the people who have front yard garbage storage that they're in violation of the bylaw and that we're undertaking a bylaw review, so that if they had a concern about this, they could come forward at the public hearing and be heard on it, rather than us complete this process and not change that section at all, and then go out and tell people they're in violation and have to do this process over again if council had a change of heart around that provision. So this is what we expected to have happen, because we kind of instigated it by pointing out that there was a violation on our existing bylaw. So I talked to Andrew, he was in town earlier this week and paid me a visit, and we talked about possible solutions for his property. Now one thing that I'll say, in regards to his property, is he does maintain them with help, and they're fine. But they don't have a sidewalk there either. So one of the things around some neighborhoods is you have a sidewalk, and so you're keeping your green bin out right by the sidewalk, and your bin with your overflowing recyclables and garbage, which is what I see at some rental places, right? And it's not terribly pleasant for the people using the sidewalk. It doesn't look especially good. So I said to Andrew, you know, what if we made a provision that if you had a rural cross-section kind of road, so you don't have a sidewalk on your side, you know, so you could have this until such time as you had a sidewalk. And he said, well, I take a sidewalk any day over this. But, you know, seriously, you know, it might be less offensive if there isn't a sidewalk there for people to be walking directly past your garbage. I don't know. It's a tough one because of the configuration of that development. You know, and there are a lot of units. And so it might be 18 garbage cans, it could be 30 garbage cans or 40 garbage cans, you know, frankly, because there are that many units there, and everyone, you know, is being asked, I guess, to maintain or manage their own garbage.
That's what it's at right now.
Right, so we would
So
expect.
we have 80, 90-year-olds.
Yeah, so we would expect that if they're managing their own garbage, they're bringing it out to the curb, and they're setting it down and saying hi to the neighbor and heading back in, and by noontime or so, that's been picked up and taken away. Now, whether they could share green bins, whether they do share green bins, I don't know,
We have one green bin per unit.
per unit.
So how many in unit? 4?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
The green bins aren't a big, well, we still don't know what we're doing with the green bins. Because nobody wants it in their backyard.
Right.
And in all honesty,
Nobody wants it
there's
in
no
their front-
backyard.
Yeah, that's true.
So, Your Worship, what about the possibility of a permitting system?
What's that?
A permitting system? Well, it would be a requirement that a person get a permit before they have that kind of an installation, and we'd have certain standards for the installation. In some places where it's obviously not appropriate, they wouldn't get a permit.
Okay, because we're starting, correct me if I'm wrong, we're starting with bylaws that say you can't do it at all. So you're saying put in
I
some
can't.
regulations.
I just
Right.
think there's so many situations here in town where it's really tough, the way that bylaw is being written. You're going to get more complaints because there are many homes in the older section of town that will really be difficult for them to do this.
Yeah.
And they almost need to have a way to put it out in the front.
Nope. So I'm just going to throw this out there. Nobody was building these bins until the last year, couple of years,
Yeah.
right? Everybody looked after their garbage until the last couple of years.
No, they've been out for quite a while.
Have they?
Rural,
In
yes.
town?
No, rural.
In
They've been out.
rurals, yeah, well, rurals are
Yep,
way different.
That's true.
they've still been out for a while. And another thing, what's the general average population in the town of Yarmouth? Or,
What?
age, sorry.
Yeah.
Well, let's come back to my further, is it possible to send this thing back and so, to the committee and have further discussion on it?
Committee of the whole, this is in the land use bylaws, so you can take it back up to committee of the whole if you want to discuss it.
We can take it back to committee of whole and
What do the
discuss
rest of you
it,
think?
discuss it again.
Sandy? Yeah. Lee, make a motion?
Anybody disagree with taking it back and looking at it?
So I'll make a motion that,
Some kind of direction though, for going back to a meeting to discuss on this, we need some kind of direction to lead us in our, we need some kind of direction to lead us in our discussion, otherwise it's gonna be a meeting that just goes around and around. You have 4 or 5 questions that are pertaining to what's happening here in a meeting, which generated all this discussion. We need some kind of,
so Counselor, earlier this evening I came in and read this, I was in early tonight, and I read it, and I started to have questions about it, so I asked CEO some questions. And one of the questions I asked was, is this something that was raised as a result of citizen complaints, or was it raised and implemented because of something within the staff? And I got the straightforward answer. This is a staff thing because waste check circulated, you know, and staff thought it was appropriate now to bring our bylaw to be consistent with the waste check recommended model bylaw. But I'm not 100% sure in my mind that the waste check model bylaw is where we should go, and that's why I want to have another look at it. I can't figure it out tonight. But.
Go ahead.
So this particular provision isn't in the waste check bylaw. Most of the members of waste check are rural municipalities. And so this is something that I copied over from our existing bylaw.
All right.
Right. So what I can do to Councillor Barry's question, maybe to help, is do a kind of a scan across the province with towns and how they're dealing with this issue. Maybe somebody's come up with something that works that we can learn from.
There's other similar developments around the province like yours. If you got through New Minas and back, there's plenty of them up through that way. I'm sure there's some pretty good
Yeah,
guidance.
there's a way. It's not so much, it's not you.
But you see, I think there's a way that in some places it's okay, and if it was permitted and
Yes,
we had
I
control
agree.
over, yeah.
If you look at some of the housing developments that may be provincial, it's just really, we need to set some regulations, because I understand in the municipality what happens. We could never, we don't want to go to what the municipality is, that's not who we are. So yeah, we'll take another look at it. And no, we did not. I just asked if anyone wanted to speak, and this lady came up. We're glad you did, because that's what we're looking for.
I mean, there are,
And that we refer this back to committee of the whole for
Yeah.
further discussion and
So
recommendations.
before anyone seconds that, I need to
Sandy.
ask if, are you finished?
yes.
Are you good? Okay, I wasn't saying finished, but I just,
that's-
you
no, that's
can
fine.
ask all the questions you want.
Yep.
Does anybody else want to speak to this? Oh, come on up.
Just a question, am I understanding that you are not permitted to put your green bin at the curb until collection day? Is that because
Yeah.
yesterday Mr. Allen was at my house on another matter, and there's my home, a home in between, and my sister's. At the home in between, they had their green bin right on the sidewalk. If I'm walking to my sister's, their green bin is here, full of rotting lobsters with flies swarming all over it.
Right.
I pointed that out to Mr. Allen, and he told me that is permissible.
Was it collection day?
No, yesterday was Wednesday, and collection day was Thursday, but that bin full of rotting
so-
lobsters had been there for a week prior to
So
yesterday.
Mr. Allen was mistaken.
Well,
That is not permissible.
I
and
brought that to his
Yeah.
attention, and I was told it was permissible.
It's not permissible. It should not be on the sidewalk. It
It
should be.
wasn't on the sidewalk.
Yeah,
It was on a piece of grass this far.
yeah. Well, that's the kind of issue, frankly, that I think this provision was looking to eliminate or avoid is storage of bins and garbage out by the sidewalk, where it becomes a bit of a,
They don't want to deal with the flies and the maggots and everything in their own yard
Right.
because they're not disposing of this properly.
That-
right.
You just hit the nail on the head.
So therefore, us folks using the sidewalk have to tolerate
Right.
this.
That's
And
what
it's
we're-
not the first time.
And so there, as Mr. Gushu said, that's exactly what we're trying to protect you against. That you shouldn't have to walk by something that's full of maggots and flies and the bad
Exactly.
smell. And the other piece is, when we look at this, we need to, and I know it's like, it's the most difficult thing in the world. Like people say, well, my green cart's full of maggots. No, I don't want it in my backyard. Well, if you just either freeze your stuff or wrap it in those flyers that you get no maggots, you get no flies. There's a way to
Or if
do
you-
it, but people refuse to do it.
If you dump your lawn waste,
Yeah.
your cuttings into your green bin,
Yeah.
it eliminates that problem
See.
as well. And I don't know if everybody knows
I,
that.
I think everybody's heard it, but they just don't follow the rules. So to your point, that's what this is trying to protect. And it's not just that, like, it's the green cart for you, but when I go for a walk, I don't want to have to walk around it. And I'm telling you, they look like giant metal lobster crates with bikes and everything, and garbage that's been there for weeks, and clothes and Tim's cups and everything. It's like a little mini dump.
Yeah.
And nobody should have to live next to that. So we're trying to protect the neighbors.
Okay.
While at the same time, I mean, and I'm pointing to this lady's, you know, there's a lot of seniors in this town, and that's true. So you kind of got to weigh and measure, right?
I just
So,
wanted to bring that
yeah.
also to your attention,
Yeah.
and to see if I thought I was correct in my thinking, but
Yeah.
was told I wasn't.
Yeah.
So obviously, the person telling me this was not correct in his.
Thanks for bringing that, Diane.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, are we good? Would anybody else like to speak to this? Joey, come on up. Sit down at the microphone there.
The garbage down green bin full. This is the first one. Never full, never empty. Never empty. Can you fill it empty to the first one? The garbage green bin. And the green, the first one on the other side of the back green bin. And the green first one. Never empty.
Never empty.
Never empty the green from the first one. Never empty. Empty.
At your place?
Yeah, by the back with the background.
Okay.
Can you empty? No, empty. No, empty.
I'll let Russell know.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
Get it empty. Okay?
Okay.
Thanks, Joey. Okay, go ahead, Don.
Last question. Big products, like when I drive down my street, I see big products like
Mon-
I'm looking at bicycles. I'm looking at beds. I'm looking. So is there somewhere in our provision along there before they're allowed? Because I see them out, and I'm assuming that it's the end of the month, and I see it out there halfway through the month, or
Oh.
I see it out there at the beginning of the month, and I'm start going. So does that cover
So-
when it's allowed out?
So we have provisions in our solid waste collection for things like mattresses, couches, refrigerators, bicycles, all that stuff that you used to be able to put out twice a year in the spring and fall. You can now put it out monthly, according to our calendar. Now, you're not supposed to put it out until, you know, the night before collection, early that morning, but people do. And so this is another initiative that I've asked Russell to take up, is just that issue of the green bin being out by the road when it's not supposed to, or the bed or the mattress or whatever being out before it's supposed to. People have to keep stuff stored, not in their front yard, not at the street, you know, in their backyard until collection day. Bring it out and we'll take it away. They're paying for that service to take it away, but, you know, it's about, you know, also respecting your neighbors and the neighborhood. So he has been doing more of that work. Obviously, it sounds like there's more to be done, but he's been doing more of that work and a little bit less of some other things because we've been hearing some complaints of that nature.
On that, some residents may not know when that pickup is.
So they each get something in their, I know, but, so I'm
No,
gonna,
I'm just saying, maybe if it's on the radio, let's go out.
yeah.
Driveway, this is when you're.
It's on our website, and we can, I don't, we get everybody gets a calendar, and so I say this and I get myself in trouble, but we can't hold everybody's hands. But, you know, I know you're not saying that, but the information's out there, but people call me and say, well, I didn't know, and I said, well, it was on the radio. Well, I don't listen to the radio. Well, it's in the Vanguard. Well, I don't read the Vanguard. Well, it's on our website. I don't have a computer. So we can't knock on everybody, right? So it goes right to your mailbox, and everybody needs to keep that on there. That's where, yeah, on the side of the fridge. But we can, yeah. I don't know, I just look every week. Go ahead, Jeff, sorry.
So.
I just look at every month.
So there's an app called My Waste, and I just opened it up on my smartphone here, so you can download the app. It's branded with the town of Yarmouth, and it has our collection schedule. It has all the details of what is able to be received every collection. And I know that's some people, but I saw you had a phone in your hand, so I thought I'd mention that.
This happens to be.
Yeah.
Again, most of the age population in Yarmouth are seniors.
Right, so if you would like a handful of those collection.
Not to sound like an old crank here, it's a fact. It is.
It is. So if you want a stack of those and hand them out to all the people in your
Oh, I
thing,
take them.
we can
I
do
take
that.
those to my tenants
Yeah.
every 6
Yeah.
months, I do.
So it doesn't matter what their age is,
No,
if they
no,
don't.
I'm just saying, I take those to my tenants every
Yeah.
6 months. I don't take them around town every 6 months.
Yeah,
I'm just saying in general
Yeah.
on that,
yeah,
you know.
I don't want any more apps in my phone. I got
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't either.
but that's, yeah, so I mean, there's nothing more we can do except say,
No, I'm
put
just-
that on your fridge,
Yeah.
because it's good for a year.
Yeah.
And then we're not, I mean.
No, I'm not saying me. And I'm
No,
not
I
saying
know
my
it's not-
tenants.
no,
I'm just
I
saying in
understand.
general, that's all.
Yeah,
Maybe a radio blurb every
yeah,
once in a blue moon.
yeah.
That's all.
Well, golden hours, like.
Anyway, I'm
Put
going
on
to be
there.
finished and I'm gonna go.
No, you're good, you're good. So. Yeah, it doesn't matter how many, that's very true, Kevin, yes. No, it's fact,
Unless you say
yes,
something stupid.
yeah. So does anybody else want to speak to this issue? We good, thank you very much for coming in. You're good, you were excellent. Okay, so, Counselor Hood, no, it didn't get seconded because we had to ask first, okay. Moved in, oh, you did? Okay, we weren't supposed to second until we, listen, but we're good, we're seconded. Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Contrary, motion carried. All right. Phew.
You know what I noticed at the very end of this bylaw? Prosecution drag is optional.
Yeah.
Request, okay, request for presentation, Happy Feet Orthotics. So that is with regard to, I think they want a blue spot, oh, I call it the blue spots, a blue parking spot out in front of their business.
I have a man yesterday, I had to go to Swoosh Point and see because they don't have a blue spot in front of the law.
Go ahead.
So, Your Worship, this request has come to the Traffic Authority, and he's looked at the situation. You know, you could choose to paint a spot blue, which would make it a handicap or disabled or accessible parking spot. But what you don't have there is a curb cut. You don't have a curb cut, so you wouldn't have a ramp up onto the sidewalk. It wasn't planned to be a blue accessible spot there, so you can paint it blue, but then you'll have complaints from people who need the accessibility that you don't actually have the standard ramp from the street level up onto the sidewalk level.
Okay, so what is the traffic authority telling us? What's he thinking? I mean, everybody, we have a number of places that want these, and we can't,
Yeah, if he thought
Put them
that
there.
was a thing to do, it would already be done.
okay.
So
I'm with him.
I'm taking from that he doesn't, and his main concern expressed to me is that you paint the spot blue, but you're not gonna meet the standard unless you tear up the sidewalk and, you know, a section of sidewalk and put a ramp in as well. And the concern is, you know, businesses do move, and you can't have a blue spot in front of every business. Although people with mobility problems probably would like to avail themselves of just about every business on Main Street at one time or another. So, you know, you have a certain number of spots. We do have a fair number in our downtown, and, you know, you just can't put one in front of every business.
Okay, Counselor?
Your Worship, the Brown Street parking lot is 1, 2, 3, or 4 storefronts from this business location, and at the very top of the Brown Street parking lot are either 2 or 4 handicapped parking spaces, just adjacent to the street.
Okay,
So I don't think we have an urgent problem here.
does anybody disagree? So, do we want to receive and place on file? But I would like to be able to advise him of just exactly what you just said. A letter stating that, you know, the traffic authority, those pieces. Can we put that together? Somebody want to make that motion? Don? Seconded? Discussion? Wade? Oh, all those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Tender street cleaner. No problem. Take your time. Or no.
Yeah, there's a recommendation, a memo from Dave Ernst, your town engineer. So a tender to supply a new vacuum street sweeper was advertised on the provincial procurement website. Closing date was May 7th. 3 submissions were received, and the results are outlined in the town engineer's report. After reviewing the submissions for compliance with the specifications, it is recommended that we accept the lowest tender from Saunders Equipment in the amount of $281,400 plus HST. And so that replacement of the street cleaner was included in this year's budget, capital budget, at amount of $325,000. So the total cost to us will be $293,422 when you include the net part of the HST that we pay. So this is well within the budget, and so we're seeking your approval of that tender.
Councillor Hood?
Well, it gives us a little more leeway in our budget, doesn't it? I move that we accept the lowest tender.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. $300,000.
There's $31,000 in the difference between the budget and the bid, so you got $31,000 more leeway in your budgeting for other things within the capital budget of the.
UNSM Board Initiatives Report. What do we need here? Anything? Yep. Want it?
Sure.
I don't think there's,
This is just for information.
yeah. Yep. Okay, so we good? Thank you. Go ahead.
So they talk, one of the things they're talking about is the cannabis legislation, and I mean, this train is moving down the tracks. Have we given any consideration, or is there any model bylaws coming out of UNSM? I mean, have we given any consideration to the things we probably ought to be doing from a planning point of view in here in relation to this?
A little bit. So just nothing has come out from UNSM in terms of model bylaws or anything, but FCM has just recently put out a cannabis municipal toolkit. So I haven't had a chance to crack open the toolkit yet, but there would be some recommendations, maybe some model bylaws, that kind of stuff within that. So I'll have a look. I'll share it with council if you don't already have it, and maybe we'll put it on the committee of the whole agenda.
Or planning, it's got to get, I think we need to deal with it.
Well, we need to deal with it. The other piece is I was talking to the urban mayors because we met, so we would have some like circumstances. And I guess the thought was that we don't want to, oh my goodness, I gotta put this on. I'm in trouble. We don't want to have to all sit down and write, you know, the town of Yarmouth, take all of our manpower and write all these bylaws and stuff, that we could do it together. So, okay. Wade, get your camera out or get him here. Use mine. So here's the deal, folks. I am, the town of Bridgewater mayor had to wear our Yarmouth Mariners pink in the rink jersey because our Mariners beat the Lumberjacks. And then we went on to play Edmundston, and we lost. And so the Edmundston's mayor sent me their jersey from the Blizzards. So I just want to say this publicly. We are so proud of our Mariners. We're so proud of them. And I don't care what jersey I have to wear. They went a long ways. We'll be cheering for them again this year. We wish the ones that left all the best, and the ones that are staying, we're just excited about next year. So a huge thank you to the owners of the Mariners, to the Laurie Barron and his coaching staff and everybody, even to our Wade for all the announcing, and I love that music you play. You're great at it. So I'm proud to wear, the Meredith Blizzard jersey for the rest of the night. Phew, I'm glad I remembered that. Oh, my dear. Go ahead, Counselor.
I'd just like, as an attendant to that, to say that when we were playing the Blizzard, they had their own fans coming down, and they loved Yarmouth. They absolutely loved the hospitality that we showed.
Yeah.
They were extremely respectful. Cyril Samard, who's the mayor, is just fantastic.
He's wonderful.
If we, well, I don't want to say if we had to lose to somebody, we're glad it's them. That's not the case.
No.
Because we're never glad to
Never
lose.
glad to lose.
But it really was a wonderful series, and we congratulate Edmundston as well for a good showing.
Right on. Yeah. Okay, sorry about that. So we were on cannabis legislation. So the idea was, what I was saying was to get those, we've got the media back there laughing at us. Yeah, to get together and see who's doing what, as opposed to us sitting down and do it by ourselves. But we can certainly put it on the next agenda. Go ahead.
So my follow-up question on that is for the solicitor, Mr. Barrow. In the interim, regardless, until we have maybe some other legislation specific to the cannabis legalization issue, does our current bylaw give us protections about location of these dispensaries that may be illegal or legal or whatever? Because my understanding is that in Nova Scotia, the only legal place to obtain both types of marijuana, which is personal use stuff and medical, is through either online or the Nova Scotia Liquor Commission. That's my understanding. And yet they have these shops popping up. We got one here in town, haven't we?
Yeah, we do.
So how are they operating? Are they operating legally or illegally under our zoning bylaw? Or do you need time to think about it?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'd have to look into it. I was...
Why haven't you looked into it before?
No one's asked. You know, every business, though, would have to apply for a permit. And normally
But I understood that we didn't have to give a permit to a business that was operating illegally.
And you wouldn't, so I guess the starting point is maybe we could look at the permit that was applied for and what information was given.
Do they have a permit, these businesses? I don't even know where they are.
And the land use bylaw is written so that unless something is specifically permitted, it's not allowed, so.
That's what I thought. All right, maybe we could get a report at the next council
Jeff's
meeting?
got an answer, maybe?
Sure, yeah. We can talk about it at committee of the whole if I can seek an answer. But I know in one case, and I don't know where you're speaking of specifically, but I know that we did have an application for a development permit a while back that Joanne made me aware of. And the issue was she was concerned that there might be an intention to sell marijuana, which at the time still is not legal. And so she went so far as to have a letter provided by the developer's solicitor confirming that there would be no marijuana sold at that business. And with that, she issued the permit for the business, and it was not part of the business. So if there are, and I don't know if that's one of the places that you're alluding to, but Joanne did check with her colleagues around the province. The consensus is you can't issue a permit for an activity that is illegal. Yeah.
That's what I thought. Maybe it'd be good to have review that and reinforce it in case people have a mishappen. It's obvious people I'd have a misapprehension about that, because you read the paper every day, somebody getting busted in Halifax or Dartmouth or somewhere for running these stores. And, I mean, we live in a land, we live under the rule of law, and if we blindly allow people to break the law, we're not living under the rule of law. Not a good thing.
Okay? Sandy. That was good. Okay, Council Advisory Committees, Committee of the Whole, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. I move that the staff look into the possibility of replacement tree planting on Cliff Street in the new section that was repaired.
Second.
Where'd that come from?
Committee of the Whole.
Was I here?
No. No.
Thank you. I was going to say.
Neither was I.
I usually remember.
Neither was I.
Oh, you weren't. That's right. That's right. Okay. You
Yeah.
did. Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried.
I move, Your Worship, that as August 31st, 2018, the position of the current EMO coordinator be terminated.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried. That's it? You guys only got 2 things done without Phil and I?
Yeah.
Just kidding. Good stuff. Okay, Planning Advisory Committee, Councillor Macleod.
Several items tonight. From the council meeting of May the 17th, I move to, or the public hearing of May 17th, I move to amend the land use bylaw to rezone 112 Parade Street to medium-density residential as outlined in our planner's report.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried.
I move to amend the planning strategy and the land use bylaw to fix various cross-reference corrections and minor conflicts as outlined in our planner's report.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried.
I move to amend the land use bylaw to permit accessory buildings in the front yard within the institutional zone as outlined in our planner's report.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? Questions been called? All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried.
And number 4, I move to amend the land use bylaw to permit accessory buildings in the front and flanking yard within the general commercial and commercial industrial zones as outlined in our planner's report.
Okay, moved and seconded. So I want to ask, okay, go ahead first.
Yeah, Mr. Sigfridsson brought up a very interesting point that I wasn't aware of about the 30 feet setback, that it was somehow limited. And before I approve that, I want to make sure that that's something that we can correct, or if that is a real issue. It's not something that I had considered up to this point, and I've been following this as part of the planning committee, but it's not something actually that had been brought up at that point. And so I want to be sure that it isn't going to be a problem and any kind of hindrance before I go any further with it.
I'm with you. I agree.
Yeah, I think the bylaw says that the accessory building shall not be set back more than 30 feet from the street line, subject to site plan approval. So if it was going to be more than 30 feet, it could still be permitted under the site plan approval process. So it would depend upon on the development office and if they approve the site plan.
So it would be done on a case-by-case basis?
That's right.
Okay. All right.
So, Clark, I'm just going to be blunt that, okay. All right, so you're good with that?
Oh, I'm absolutely fine with it. Yeah, it's just as long as there's flexibility, you know, long term, you never want to lock into a certain dimension.
Yeah. Go ahead, Cliff.
So my question is this, what are the implications because it's talked about in the report, what are the implications here for fees or in lieu of taxes? I assume that the only taxes we're collecting on these are the existing taxes on the land that's being occupied, is that correct? Or am I wrong?
If an accessory building is placed on the lot, right, it would have value and that would become part of the property assessment. So
Which would be passed on to the owner, who would have to pass it on to the person using the building?
right. So a permanent structure. So what Clark was talking about, a shipping container kind of deal is more portable. You know, it isn't a fixed asset. I don't know how PVSC would deal with that. You know,
So that's the reason for my question.
Yeah, that's it.
Because, and here's what my reason is. It seems to me that they need a level playing field, and so that the operator of one of these who gets a permit or is able to do that on that site would either have to pay a fee or taxes to the equivalent of what a similar operation would have to pay in another part of town. That's my thought.
Yeah. So trying to think if maybe Greg would weigh in on this, whether or not a non-fixed structure like a shipping container, which doesn't have a foundation, which isn't fixed, whether that would even fall under this provision, or whether that would be kind of like a seasonal retail use kind of thing. So
we got that taken care of too.
that's coming up.
Go ahead, Greg.
You asked me, would a shipping container would be considered part of the property to increase the value of the
Yeah,
property?
I wonder if PVSC would even look at a shipping container as something accessible, right? So then it just becomes, so how on a commercial property that's dealt with is that if Clark owned a shipping container coffee shop and he was renting or leasing, had a license from a property owner to have it placed there, they have a rental agreement. And so in commercial properties, PVSC will use a revenue model to put a property value on it, provided the business provides that information. So that rent gets considered. It could be very small in the big picture, right? But the container itself wouldn't be assessed. It would be the value of the lease that would be assessed, become part of the assessment. Kind of minimal.
The red shed, we get any revenue out of that?
They have
Other than the lease from the port?
the port would have a lease. They're a seasonal retail vendor. They're on private property. I don't believe Clark would know what the fee is off the top of his head, maybe?
I don't know their agreement.
Yeah. It would be,
I believe they lease or rent from Waterfront Corporation.
right, but do you pay a fee, sorry, ask you this personally, but I don't recall off the top of my head, do you have to pay a fee to the town to have a seasonal retail use?
I do not, because I'm on private property.
Right, and so the same would apply to the red shed, because that isn't, although it's a public institution, it isn't town property like the street.
So are we creating any problems for other merchants of any kind that, if we permit these activities in a manner that really doesn't generate an equivalent amount of revenue that these other business operators have to pay in taxes for providing a similar service?
Could I speak to that? So that has been I know that has been a traditional thought around here, and we've had some issues in the past, and we managed to pretty much eliminate street vending in a reaction to that. And, I'm not sure that's the right model either. So as it turns out, Clark has made an application to amend the land use bylaw for seasonal retail uses. And part of the way that bylaw has been structured up to this point is kind of protecting those fixed location businesses by only allowing seasonal retail uses to operate 9 months of the year. Clark's amendment is to allow for 12 months. And so we had a public participation meeting, which you're going to hear about momentarily, but nobody from the business community came out to speak to it. It was on information morning, it was advertised, and so I don't know if the current climate is that people aren't concerned about that, but they sure didn't show up to speak to that issue.
Thanks.
Okay. All right, so it was moved and seconded.
Question.
Question's been called. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried.
So, Your Worship, from the Planning Advisory Committee meeting of 2 days ago, number one, I moved to proceed to a public hearing in order to consider, and if deemed advisable, amend the strategy and land use bylaw and vendors bylaw to define food trucks that operate from one location as a separate use from seasonal retail use and mobile vendors, to permitting them to operate year-round but requiring a vendor's permit with an annual cost as outlined in our planner's report. It's a long sentence.
Yeah. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried. So Clark, now we go to public hearing. It's for all, not just you, but everybody that would affect, but just so you know where it's going next. Okay?
And the second and last item, Your Worship, I move to proceed to a public hearing in order to consider, and if deemed advisable, amend the land use bylaw to reinstate standards for parking areas and delete the redundant section for site plan approval in the comprehensive development zone as outlined in our planner's report. Thanks, Wade.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried.
Thank you,
Good.
Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor. Reports for information. Questions for committee chairs. I'll start. It's not a question. It's a statement. We just hosted the Nova Scotia Federation of Municipalities. It was tremendously successful. Everything from transportation, infrastructure renewal is here. We covered the cannabis legislation. We covered a lot of really great topics, but in particular, the ability for us to get together and talk and network and see, you know, what each other is doing. Friday night, we had a gathering, actually a kitchen party, and I want to thank the committee. Patty Durkee from the municipality, Glenn Digdon from Argyle, and our very own Wade. And thank you, because it was, I heard off the charts amazing. I heard 12 out of 10 across the board. So it's great that when visitors come here, they get to experience something wonderful. So thank you for that. And everything else you did, because you sang and all those other pieces. And I know that Don and Phil, I know at least Don and Phil were doing lobster and all those pieces. So thank you.
Mr. Berry took one for the team with the lobster.
Yeah, I heard you almost lost a finger. So that was really good. Do we have any more questions for committee chairs? Councillor Cleveland, we're good on Communities in Bloom? Straight ahead? All right, good, okay. Additions. So do we sort of cover 9A Ocean Breeze Estate Solid Waste Bylaw? So we're good with that one, folks. And council recommendations from Planning Advisory was taken care of as well. Thank you, Councillor Macleod. Approval of invoices.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Date of next meeting is June the 14th. And I need a motion to go in camera because we have a couple items there.
So moved. Second.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Joey has, I think Joey has on the daffodil that represents Cancer Month. Wave. Good. Thanks, Joey.